hear this.
The Crow Nation has brought the message. The buffalo are coming back. Our people are coming back.
And that is our friend Good Shield. And he is over in Europe right now visiting the European bison, and hope to hear from him when he gets back. And that one's called Red Road, and it's for the buffalo. And I'm excited because, Sandy, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, thanks for calling. I know that it's busy. Spring is always busy for many people, and to be able to have time with us on a Sunday, it's we really appreciate it. So I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the work that you're involved in.
Sure. Hi, my name is Sandy Whitehawk, and I am from the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. I was adopted out when I was 18 months old and returned when I was 35 in July of 1988. I live in Minnesota now, and since the time that I returned, a lot of healing has taken place, and it's led me to the work that I do today in First Nations Repatriation Institute. So I would like to just say a special greeting and hello to my fellow adoptees and those who've grown up in foster care, and also a special greeting to any birth mother or father who may be listening as well.
Thank you for that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, you in your bio, it talks about the Truth, Healing, Reconciliation Community Forums that you have. But this started, can we talk a little bit how this got started? I know in the 90s it was, I believe anyways.
Sure. Well, it started with having met Paula and Arvel back in 99. Like the spring of 1999. He was coming through the place I was working in Madison, Wisconsin at the time. I was working at a college, and I got a phone call one day and said Arvel was coming through speaking at colleges and any place that wanted where he could present about World Peace and Prayer Day. And I knew who he was, so I said, yes, please come by. So he came by, and that's when I met and became friends with Paula. And to be really honest, at first I wasn't very interested in what Arvel was doing because he was talking about something that seemed too big and broad and something I wasn't seeing a part of it. And he was way back then talking about global healing and peace. And so after we met and they visited and he did his presentation, I heard from them about a month later, and they said, I remember Paula called and said, you were so good to us, me and Arvel want to invite you to come to World Peace and Prayer Day since you're a dancer and whatever. And I said, okay, sure, and it was in Costa Rica. And so I went. And that's when a lot of things for me began to change in terms of a lot of resentment and anger that I had toward white people for what had happened to me as an adoptee. And it's also where I met Chris Lee, who was one of Arvel's spiritual helpers, guides, elder, who I didn't know then I would end up working with. So so that was in June of 99 that I went to Costa Rica, and I had that experience and met Chris Leaf and Dave Chief and Estella Pretty Sounding Flute. And those three individuals really supported Arvel in his vision for World Peace and Prayer Day.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to meet them and spend time with them and be encouraged by them. But they really had a lot of respect and really wanted Arvel to be able to fulfill the vision that he had after he had visited the White Buffalo Calf in Janesville, Wisconsin. So, go ahead.
I just want to say for my listeners, we're talking about Paul Horn and Chief Arvo Looking Horse, World Peace and Prayer Day.
Yes. And so in August of 1999, just a couple months after I'd been in Costa Rica, I'm at my annual powwow in Rosebud Fair, and that's where now I know to say that's when I had the vision for what started the work that I do. But when this happened, I had no idea that that's what that was, and really didn't think anything that I should do anything. But here's what I saw. It was it was a beautiful day, and it was, South Dakota is just beautiful, especially in the summertime, and it was getting close to break time for the meal at the powwow. And I was visiting an elder friend of my brother's who lives on the reservation. I reunited and met some of my family, and whenever I went to South Dakota, I stay with them. And so he'd introduced me to Clara Ferguson, and who is also now no longer with us. But her and I had been visiting and enjoying the day, and it was really a time in my life when I didn't need anything or want anything. I'd been sober since 88, and it was 99. I knew who my family was. I knew and felt at home on the reservation. I'd started dancing. Had been invited to be part of a color guard. I had a really good job. My kids were doing good. I just was in a place where I needed and wanted nothing. And considering the harsh background I had, it was just remarkable to be in that space. And so I told Clara jokingly, I said, "Oh my gosh, it's finally supper time. I'll run over and get us some soup and fry bread, and at least we can eat." And she goes, yes, that'll be good. And then just before the session stopped, the announcer says, "We're going to have a special now." And her and I looked at each other and kind of rolled our eyes, because what that means in South Dakota at a powwow, it means another hour to an hour and a half, because the special means that they're going to talk about the person that they're going to honor. They're going to bring out all these gifts that they've collected probably for a year or more, and they're going to take their time, which is what they should do. But we were being selfish and thinking, now I gotta wait to eat, and we're trying to be, supportive of this. Really, it was this. The other part that was really nice about it, though, is I remember thinking how wonderful that they're doing this special now. Why this elder is still alive? He was a Korean War veteran, and I don't remember his name, but they wanted to honor him for not only his service being a veteran, but the family thought highly of him, the community thought highly of him, and they wanted to honor him. So, and they picture a really large powwow arena, and picture an elder walking all the way around that arena very slowly the first time before anybody can go out and shake their hand. So it just kind of goes on and on and on in terms of time. But as that song was being sung, I asked Clara about it because she's a language speaker, and I knew that it was singing about veterans, but I didn't know what they were saying. And so she started telling me the words of that song. And now I had been living in Wisconsin this whole time, and I came into the powwow circle in Wisconsin. Regionally, tribes will do their honor songs sometimes a little differently. So I wasn't as familiar with the style of song that is sung for honoring the way the Lakota people do it. So I was asking her about that, and I felt kind of foolish, but I just felt compelled to ask because I couldn't take my eyes off the arena. I was filled with this sense of at one point when the honor beat was hit, and I saw the man, the elder, and his wife walking to that slow stomp beat, and that backlight hitting just perfect. It was like for just at that moment, it felt as nothing bad had ever happened to any of us. Not just me, but any of us. And it was beautiful, and it was strong, and it was real. And I said to Clara, why do they raise their hands during the honor beats? Because you just never did that over in where I was powwow dancing. So during that first round of honor beats, she said, right now, when they raise their hands, they're thinking of all of their family members, community members who were veterans, who've passed. They either died in combat or they died after they came back here, and we're just remembering them during this song. We're thinking about them, and when we raise our hands, we're acknowledging them, that they're now in the spirit world, but we never forget. And another round of honor beats comes, and she said, now we're thinking of all those veterans who are in service right now. We know that they are willing to lay their life down for us so that we can live, so we're thinking of them. And then it came for the third round of honor beats. And she said, now what we're thinking of is those veterans who are making their way home. And we're saying, we're glad you're home, we're glad you're here, welcome home. And that's when it hit me that I had never heard or seen or witnessed anything about welcoming adoptees home. And I knew I'd been very blessed to have met my family, to feel part of the family, to feel part of the reservation where I come from, but I knew so many adoptees did not have that. Many didn't even know where they were from, so wouldn't even know where to look. And so I also knew that there'd be adoptees at any powwow looking for relatives, because that's what we're told to do. Start there if you don't know anything else. And it struck me so that, I was thinking to myself, I've never seen it. Why couldn't we have a song? What would happen if at our annual powwows, the announcer said at this time, we would like all our relatives who are looking for their family that to come out to the arena so we can see you. And what if we took it a step further and said we want all our mothers and fathers who have a child out there through adoption or foster care come out here, and grandmas and grandpas, especially you, come out here so we can all dance together and begin to heal our family. And but as quickly as I thought that, I just went, well, what the heck am I trying to think up here? I don't know anything about anything, but I'd been around enough powwows at that point, traveled quite a bit with the color guard to know that we do a lot of different kinds of honorings, acknowledgments. We take time at powwows to do all kinds of things, and so I guess that's why that came to me in that way. But I didn't tell anybody. Then finally, Clara says, well, get up and dance with him. You're a veteran now. Go out and shake his hand. So I went out and shook his hand, and I was walking around the arena thinking, oh, my gosh, what if this was adoptees, and what if they were shaking hands with the community, and what if... But then I just didn't say nothing. I went back and sat with Clara and just went and got the soup later, and I kept it to myself, and I didn't say anything. So fast forward to March of 2000, Chris Lees, the man who I met in Costa Rica, I was still working at the college, and it was coming up on our Indian month, and I knew that the students would really benefit from him coming and sharing, because he was a wonderful teacher. And so he agreed to come, and I did what I always did. I always took speakers out to eat, and either before or after, or sometimes both, when they were visiting the college. And so he is such an easy man to talk to. They were visiting, and he says, so what'd you do this summer? Did you go home to Rosebud? And I went, yeah, I did. He goes, how was it? And I go, it was really nice. And for some reason, I just told him what I just shared with you. But as I was saying it, as he's looking at me, I'm remembering kind of who he was in stature in terms of, he's a really respected healer.
He probably knew that you were keeping something too.
Oh, maybe that was it, because I was like kind of going, I get halfway through this story, and then I go, I wanted to like just take the words and put them back in my mouth. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to sound so arrogant or so full of myself or, something. But I knew I couldn't stop either. So I had to get it all out. When I got it out, I really and truly was waiting for him to correct me and to, I really was. And instead, he just stopped eating, put his fork down, and he said, because I was saying, I kind of got on a little roll again, and I was like, we have songs for everything. I know that we have songs for everything, and if we don't have a song, we make a song. But I had no idea what even that meant. I'd never been involved in even asking for a song or anything. Just danced at powwows, and he says, well, you know what? He says, you're right. You're right. There should be a song. He says, you've got a vision. You better give me tobacco because I'm going to make this. There should be a song, and I'll make sure there is one. I'll have Jerry Dearly, my friend, make this song. And he says, you're going to have to get to World Peace and Prayer Day because we're going to bring it out at World Peace and Prayer Day. And he just like had this plan that fell out of his head, and I'm like kind of going, huh? And he said, do you know that I'm I'm a board member of the National Indian Child Welfare Association? I said, no, I didn't know there was a National Indian Child Welfare Association. And he says, yes, I'm their spiritual advisor. He said, this is what will help bring back the extended family, which is what ICWA is about. And so that ended that conversation there, but we just put the wheels in motion. I just kind of followed what he suggested, and so we created a little blurb. And he said, "You better figure out how to get to the next NICWA conference next month, and we'll start talking about this and tell the people what we're going to do." And I'm like, what do you mean what we're going to do? And I just had no idea what I was walking into at all whatsoever.
Well, you were guided. That's amazing so far.
Oh, yeah. And he was just so on and said yes, and he made it happen. So the song was sung for the first time in the Black Hills, June 21st, 2000. And adoptees did come from several places, and even a busload of adoptees from Canada came. And it was amazing because I had never heard this song before that day. And they formed a huge circle of all the people who were at World Peace and Prayer Day, several hundred, and put me out in the middle, and Jerry started singing that song. And I really did almost fall over because I had a dream about a year before, 2-3 years before I had that vision, and then I knew why that beat, that slow stomp beat. I had dreamt part of that already. And I'd asked several people about that dream, but no one could help me with it, and I just quit asking. But now I know that had come to me in a dream. I just had no idea what it was. So when that song ends in a round dance, and so it kind of goes from a lot of sadness to ending with a lot of happiness with that round dance beat. But after we sung that in the Black Hills, and brought that out, I should say, and everyone was so happy. And I remember this grandma came up and just hugged me, and she said, thank you for thinking of my grandson. I haven't seen him since he was in diapers, and he's 10 now, and he lives out somewhere in New York. Another guy came up, and he came specifically for that song, and he said, there were 5 of us, he said, and my mom got the 3 oldest of us back to the reservation, but they got the 2 youngest of my 2 baby sisters, and we found one of them, and we're still looking for the other one. And as soon as he said that, he started crying, really choking up in his throat when he said, we're still looking for her. And he said, thank you for this. I've never danced for her like this. And so it really touched a part of our people where we have not talked about the loss of our children in that way. Yeah. And so I kind of was still pretty, kind of, I didn't really know what was going on other than I was just following what Chris was suggesting and feeling kind of intimidated. And yet I did know from having been an adoptee, I knew what it was like to stand outside the power circle even and feel like you can't walk into it, like you can't, your place, wasn't there. And now I refer to it as coming and finding your place in the circle. That place, there is a hole in that community and in that family that only you can fill. So when we return, we're finding our place in that circle again, taking that back, our rightful place. And so it took a lot of years of, like I thought when this song was made, that would be the end of it in terms of now a drum knows the song, somebody can ask for it, it can happen. That was my thought. Until a couple months later, Chris calls and said, before he even left, he says, the next time we bring that song out to the people. And I remember thinking, we bring the song out to the people? What does that mean? And he said, we're going to have to do a wiping of tears for them to heal the grief caused by separation. And I'd never heard anyone else talk about or understand our grief in the way that he was putting it to words. And so he really became my teacher in this, and we spent the first few years going to a lot of traditional gatherings, and by people, word of mouth, people heard about this and wanted us to come and do this in their community. So we're doing, and it was, the other thing that's kind of funny is me and Jerry kind of fought going all the time because we kept thinking, he's the healer, he's the spiritual guy, what does he need us for? Why do we have to be there? And Jerry goes, I just made the song, it's not mine to sing, it's for the people. And but we couldn't say no to him, so we would just, go places and do it. But what happened is after a couple of years of doing this, a social worker came up, and I started getting more and more vocal. I started being able to share things that I guess had been in there all the time. I didn't really know, but I started saying things that I guess was connecting with the people. And the social worker came up after one of the times we did this ceremony, and she said, you know what, social workers need to hear what you're saying. And she goes, do you do training? And I just looked at her and lied through my teeth and said, yeah, I do training. Well, I'd never done a social work training, but I'd done other stuff because I'd worked at the college. So I figured I wasn't like bold-faced lying, but I was lying because I'd never done a social work. So I came back and I said to Jerry and Chris, I said, this social worker said this, and so here's what I want to do. I want to bring the people that have been adopted out or grew up in foster care or our birth relatives I want to bring them and have them share with everyone in every position that makes a decision about children and families. So that's guardian ad litem, social workers, mental health workers, CASA workers, judges, lawyers, anyone who touches a decision. And I want our people to tell their story. I want them to say one thing that they would want a social worker or someone to know, so that the people that make decisions about our families can hear what that long-term impact of being raised away from culture really has on what it really does to you, how it leads you to a depths of despair, how it leads to an incredible isolation, a painful one that how we don't even have a language to talk about how we're feeling, because there's no place around that we can identify with so that we even have a language. And so we did that. And I said, I want to call it a Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation Forum. And truth, because we're going to share the truth. Healing, because after truth sharing, we need that to attend to that wound in a sacred manner. And reconciliation, that we can build new relationships through our lived experience to become the educators and do it in a different way. So it's kind of bringing the place that caused the pain to the people that had been impacted, but flipping that, changing that, so that what is something we can identify together that we want to do to address that. So that was our first one in 2004, and we just ended up creating a model that has been very helpful, not only to adoptees and those who grew up in foster care, but for the workers who work with our families so that they can see things differently.
I just love how creation works, and how, you sharing your story, and how, like all these little things that you were guided to, and the right people, and to bring this healing out to the people, and then to be able to go and to teach other people. Mm-hmm. It's very beautiful, and that healing, and I was reading a little bit in your bio. I mean, with folks that have been, either adopted out or taken, or the trauma that they come up with, that happens to them when these things happen, that loss of identity. You talked a lot about identity, and
mm-hmm.
for people to come back into that identity once that healing starts, and they shift into that identity, you can see how their path opens. Does that make sense?
It doesn't. Well, what happens too is, I've met a lot of adoptees who may have already reconnected with a community of some sort, maybe even connected with their family, but still have not shared what they experienced. And still not really talked about that. Now, sometimes it's helpful to talk, sometimes it's not. But what I do know is songs and ceremony go into that place in your heart where there are no words. And so they can stand in that circle and have been home for 15 years and open up that wound that's never been opened, even amongst the people, and have that healed, because it's the same kind of shame and isolation that happened to people who grew up in boarding school, disconnected, not knowing and having an identity, not seeing your image reflected to you anywhere. And it really creates I would say that Western approach in therapy often doesn't even complete that healing that needs to take place. And what I've learned over the years is that we need that full circle of attention to that wound. And everybody does, not just the adoptee, but the mothers and fathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody is impacted. When one member is taken, everybody's impacted.
Absolutely. And so you'll be at World Peace and Prayer Day this year?
Yeah, I will be. Paula invited us to come, and Jerry is not going to be able to join us, but we can still have a healing around that. I'll bring my center. I have a center for that, so I will bring that, and we'll still have a healing song, and I'll talk and share, and it'll be a beautiful time. It'll be a beautiful time.
So it says here, on June 21st, World Peace and Prayer Day will host the Welcome Home ceremony for Native American adoptees, for those who grew up in foster care and birth, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and any other relatives that's touched by adoption.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in I think it's Rogue Valley in Oregon, and you could find this information out, and worldpeaceandprayerday.com, and Sandy's page. It's www.wearecominghome.com, and there's a lot of information there. And I'm real excited. I'm excited to meet you, and our family's coming down, and I think that it's the full circle. I can, it's, you can see the healing full circle from many different angles as you talk, bringing everybody out and acknowledge them. In the circle, what's so amazing about it is that what you said, when people open up that heart, you're being held by everybody there in the circle and everybody that's there to witness, and so that healing can happen. Yeah, I just appreciate that work you do.
Well, thank you.
And I know that we got about 10 more minutes. I just want to give you more time to just share with our relatives if there's something that we didn't touch base on, other things that you're involved in. I love your website. It's First Nations Repatriation Institute, and restoring First Nations people to their homelands. And there's a lot of resources on there.
Well, we came up. Well, Chris is instrumental in the name. Well, we changed names. We were First Nations Orphan Association, and Chris wanted us to use the term First Nations because he said we're not Native American, we're not American Indian. Those were terms given to us, and if we're going to have a name for us other than our tribal name, he said that we are the First Nations people of this land. And so he said, that will be a teaching every time we say the name. And so we used the word orphan. He didn't want to use the word adoptee because in most of all the languages that I've encountered traveling with him and in my own travels, there is just not a word for adoptee. But there is a word for orphan. In Lakota, it's wablenecha, which means to be broken apart into nothing. And so at first I didn't want to use the word orphan because I told him, I said, I wasn't an orphan. My mom was alive. And but after he explained what it meant, that's exactly how I felt. Broken apart. I had nothing. So I said, okay, like I should say okay, but I didn't, understand it at first. And then he, so it was First Nations Orphan Association. But I had always wanted to take it to a level where not only were we doing that healing work, but that we would be doing and leading the area of scholarship where we would be doing some very healthy community-based partnerships of research where we are, because that's very lacking. So before I forget, though, there's one thing everyone could do that's listening, that's interested, is that right now there have been some BIA proposed new regulations to the ICWA law. And these new regulations enhance ICWA for ICWA compliance. And one of the things that it addresses is adoption as well, strengthening what an attorney would have to do to have an adoption, notifying the tribe, and also addresses adoptees' access to records. And so all you would have to do is go to comments at BIA.gov and just say your name, you're an adoptee, and you support the new regulations. And if you want to say anything else about that, why a child should be raised within an Indian family community based on your own experience, do that. They will be reading every single comment. They will be going over everything, and they really, really need to hear from us as adoptees. It's the one time in ICWA history where our voice can truly impact the future of our children. One other quick announcement is any adoptees out there who are from Rosebud, August 28th through the 30th is Rosebud Fair, and there's going to be a welcoming of our adoptees to come home. We'll be doing the ceremony for adoptees in Rosebud. So if at all that you can make it to that as a Rosebud adoptee, that this is the time to save your money and take off and come home. One of the ways to find out about this, because I'll post it on the Rosebud Facebook page, I'll have that information on there. Oh, and I'll have it on our website, too.
Yeah, and we have one of my friends who's a part of Good Thinking for All Our Relations, Kisa, is in Rosebud right now and helping with build gardens and with the language, and so he's down there now from here. So I hope you make that connection when you go home too. He's been down there. He'll be there for 6 months. Help the kids requesting him come back.
Cool.
Yeah, and also,
cool.
Are you going to be doing the powwow this year?
Oh, yes, and November 7th is our Welcome Home Powwow. It's called Gathering for Our Children and Returning Adoptees Powwow. We honor our foster families and our foster youth. We have the ceremony at the powwow for adoptees. They come from all over the country, and this year it's November 7th.
That's awesome. So I appreciate your time and sharing with us and sharing your story, and I support that healing for all the people, and I'm grateful that all circles are connecting.
It's a beautiful thing. You know, our ancestors prayed for us. They prayed for that with Chozani. They prayed that because of Wicoicage. They thought of that generation yet to come, and that was us. They knew that those hard times were coming back because they were experiencing it, and they knew that it was not going to change. And they prayed for us. Those of us who were so far away from everything, we are compelled. That drive that we have to connect, that's because we were prayed for. They did not forget about us or you. That they said that in those prayers. So it is, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Thank you for letting me be on here.
Oh,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing with us. And I would love to. I'm looking forward to meeting you when you come into this area up in the Northwest in Oregon for World Peace and Prayer Day. And so thanks. Thank you for.
Yep, I can't wait to meet everybody and meet you too. So thank you very much.
Thanks. We'll be in touch.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're tuned into KAOS 89.3 FM in this Raven Redbone, and thanks Sandy Whitehawk for calling in and sharing with us her story. And again, she will be here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, Rogue Valley, for World Peace and Prayer Day, and that is the 18th through the 21st, and worldpeaceandprayerday.com, and you can find out all the information there. We're going to play another song after these two station IDs. Thank you for tuning in.